Despite the impression given by the trailers, the Barbie live-action feature film is quickly proving to be one of the most divisive movies of our time. Most think it is outright misandric and seemingly aims to sow discord between girls and boys, but there are some who think the movie is uplifting and has a positive message for men and women alike. So, who is right? Finding that out will take some unpacking. In this interpretation/review, I will begin with establishing my own history with Barbie and any bias I may have going in, before going through the story, the layers, and why I think this is one of the most toxic, vile, and mean-spirited breakup movies of our time. First things first, I know I am not the target audience for a Barbie movie. It quite literally wasn't made for me, and that is fine. That established, I do feel I am sufficiently knowledgeable about Barbie and filmmaking in general that I may offer an informed opinion. You see, on this channel, we are all about preserving and respecting the integrity of the original source material of any adaptation, regardless of subject matter. And for this channel, I did a deep dive into all things Barbie way back in 2016, which is when my history with Barbie began. That's when Amy Schumer was revealed to be in talks for the role, and while I'm not the one narrating that video, those are nonetheless my words, for I'm the one who wrote the script, and to that end, I studied the history of Barbie and scoured through literally hundreds of leaked Sony emails on WikiLeaks, piecing together the detailed development history of this movie, and on top of that, I edited the video. Over the course of all that research though, something weird happened. I became intrigued and, for lack of a better term, invested. I came to appreciate the significance of the Barbie brand and what it has meant. And so I came to hope, against hope as it would turn out, that the Barbie movie would respect the history and integrity of what the Barbie brand stands for, instead of being yet another disrespectful adaptation, where a filmmaker high on their own sense of superiority and self-entitlement sees fit to deconstruct the subject matter at hand and subvert it into something it never was. Alas, Barbie ended up being directed by Greta Gerwig, who is exactly that kind of filmmaker. And so, she ended up doing to Barbie what Paul Feig did to Ghostbusters and what Rian Johnson did to Star Wars, which was to turn something inclusive and for everyone into divisive propaganda that appeals only to a few. This movie isn't made for me, but it also isn't made for little girls, who by rights should be the target audience. It also isn't made for normal, well-adjusted women who grew up playing with Barbies, and it certainly isn't made for families, for whom a Barbie movie should be accessible, but this one isn't. So, who is this movie made for?
I loved the movie! I absolutely adored it. In fact, it broke into my top 3 favorite films of all time. I feel seen.
That's who. Director Greta Gerwig is of the coastal elite, and insofar as I have been able to ascertain, she has never spent any serious amount of time outside of the ideological bubbles in LA and New York where her worldview and sensibilities as a filmmaker were formed. As such, she is detached from the real world outside of the bubbles in which she resides. She may not have the best of grasps on human nature and the human experience, and so she makes ideologically driven propaganda movies for herself and others who share her worldview. My casual observations of audience reactions around the world is that the more aligned you are with that worldview, the more you will appreciate the movie and what Gerwig was trying to do here. And on that note, there is one hedge to my upcoming review and analysis of the movie. The movie opens with a reference to Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey, which just so happens to be one of my all-time favorite movies. But I suspect those in the target audience mostly won't recognize it, and it will certainly fly right over the heads of little girls. So why is it here? Well, 2001 has layer upon layer upon layer of messaging and commentary, and at times, the apparent message in one layer is flipped on its head in a deeper layer. I think the reason for including this scene is Gerwig telling the audience that she tried, emphasis on tried, to put some Kubrick-esque layers of subtext in the movie. The reason I say that is because there are some who know cinema who claim this is a smart movie with a positive and inclusive message. How they got that out of this is honestly beyond me, but hey, maybe they picked up on a deeper layer I missed, which recontextualizes what I saw. Or maybe they applied too much goodwill and missed out some of the things that I saw. That I leave for you to decide. As we break this down, let me know if I missed something, or if maybe I caught something the fans of this movie missed, which recontextualizes what they saw in the comments. Let's begin with the 2001 sequence, where we see the world before Barbie, where the little girls play with the pre-Barbie dolls, which came in the guise of babies, which enable the play pattern of little girls taking on the role of mothers, nurturing the babies. This would be a traditional gender role, derived from human nature. But then comes Barbie, and with that, the little girls reject the baby dolls, breaking them and all of the household accessories associated with them in favor of commercialism and self-centricism. There's obviously a double entendre here, but in light of what the original Kubrick sequence stood for, and the messaging that will come later in the movie, most notably the revulsion shown towards the pregnant Barbie, I do believe that those who choose to interpret this as a celebration of the rejection of traditional gender roles, up to and including motherhood, are entirely justified in that interpretation. Next, we see Barbie World, a matriarchy where the Barbies run everything, and every day and every night is a party for the extremely well-off Barbies, while the subservient and presumably homeless Kens have no meaningful existence outside of competing among each other for the attention and favor of the Barbies, who don't really want the Kens. Any of them, because we don't see one Barbie and Ken couple that loves each other. Not one. The Kens are tolerated, but they serve no real purpose in Barbie World. This is the first indication of how the filmmakers see men. The Barbies may be living the dream, partying with their girlfriends every day and every night, but for the Kens, it's a pretty miserable existence. Now, apparently, this is Greta Gerwig's way of letting the male audience feel what women have historically gone through. This matriarchy is a commentary on patriarchy.
The roles are reversed. So if you watch this movie and you don't like the way Ken is acting or being treated, well, just remember that that's what women went through, for real, and still do to a degree.
The problem here is that this is taken to such a wild extreme that any comparison to any period in history anywhere falls apart. At no point have women been as subservient as the Kens are in Barbie World, where they literally have no existence beyond competing with each other for the momentary attention of a romantic interest who doesn't care about them. Even at the most patriarchal, if you will, in our actual history, men and women got together and married, and whatever inequality there may have been at a societal level, pretty sure there was mutual love and respect within the daily lives of most couples. We don't see that in Barbie World. There, the separation between genders is complete. So to me, Gerwig's intended commentary on the horrors of patriarchy with Barbie World is so ineptly and poorly executed it falls completely flat and should be disregarded. Once we do that, the matriarchy of Barbie World instead comes across as an ideal society for women. Sure, it may suck for the Kens, but that's their problem. The Barbies don't notice. To them, everything genuinely is awesome, and there's no reason to change anything. Indeed, our genetic Barbie's sudden problem, thinking about death and suddenly getting cellulite doesn't come from within Barbie world, but outside of it, because director Greta Gerwig likes to put her own life into her movies. But courtesy of fourth wave feminist Barbie, or weird Barbie as she is called, we learn that the in-movie reason is that the girl who played with Barbie out in the real world is having these negative thoughts. So Barbie has to go out into the real world to take care of matters. And of course, the forever friend-zoned Ken, desperate for Barbie's attention and affection, tags along to the real world. What the movie refers to as the real world isn't so much the real world as it is, but as the ideologue Greta Gerwig sees it. A horrible patriarchy in which women are subjugated, and indeed, Barbie is subjected to sexism within moments of arriving. Now, I'm not suggesting this doesn't happen, but I am suggesting what is portrayed here is so extreme and so over the top and ineptly handled that again, any parallel to actual reality falls apart. For an even better example, look to this movie's version of Mattel, a company that here is exclusively run by men at all levels, up to and including everyone in the board. This is the filmmakers inventing some patriarchy for the movie version of the real world where none exists in our actual reality. Because in our world, excluding CEO Ynon Kreiz, Mattel has 10 board members, and exactly half of them are women. Also, Mattel's former CEO was a woman, and the Barbie division within Mattel has always been run by women. As seen in our Masters of the Universe retrospectives, those women were the ones who destroyed the He-Man brand when they demanded, and got, control over She-Ra. Mattel also has their ESG scores in order, with the Soros-funded Human Rights Campaign awarding them a 100% perfect CEI score for their LGBTQIAP+ representation. My point is, for her vision and ideological messaging to work, to create a contrast to the utopian matriarchy that is Barbie world, director Greta Gerwig had to invent some patriarchy where none actually exists for the movie version of the real world. In fact, I'll call it patriarchy world from here on out, because Gerwig's real world isn't our real world. But in disingenuously claiming that it is, the division and discord between genders is put to the extreme, and this is where Ken becomes the villain. Patriarchy world really has nothing to offer Ken. He can't get a top job since he doesn't have an MBA, and he can't even beach since he's not a certified lifeguard. But he is treated with the bare minimum of human decency, which is more than he's ever been in Barbie world. This then radicalizes him. Leaving Barbie behind, Ken returns to Barbie world, where he becomes the snake in paradise, instituting patriarchy, thereby turning the women's heaven into hell, all because he was exposed to some toxic masculinity. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but to me, the forever friend-zoned Ken seems like what people like Greta Gerwig like to refer to as incels. I mean, just look at the lyrics for the Ken song. How is that not an anthem for someone involuntarily celibate? And this particular incel just got exposed to some ideas that Gerwig considers extremely problematic. Meanwhile, back in patriarchy world, Barbie is looking for the girl that needs her help. All this time, Barbie has suffered under the delusion that by showing girls that they can be anything they want to be, she did something good. But she is quickly disabused of that notion when she is told by a teenage girl that she's just a fascist for pushing capitalism and a body image it takes a lot of work to live up to. So, to all the past generations of female Mattel employees and female Barbie brand managers who tried to make Barbie aspirational as well as inspirational, shame on you. You did bad, according to this movie. But Barbie soon finds the woman who actually used to play with her, namely this teenager's mother. This middle-aged woman is the one having trouble, in the guise of a midlife crisis. What is the cure for this midlife crisis? As it turns out, to vent. She didn't really need Barbie. She needed to bitch and moan and unload a rant of how difficult life is for coastal elite women like Greta Gerwig, because of chauvinistic pig men. For the general idea, take the rant that Jennifer unloads at Bruce in She-Hulk and just extend it. Now, far be it for me to suggest that there were no points in that rant, but I am suggesting how much any individual woman can relate to it does correspond with how closely her life aligns with that of the sheltered ideologue Greta Gerwig. With that healing rant done, Barbie is now the one who needs healing, so middle-aged mum and her teenage daughter come with Barbie for a joyride into Barbie World. And this sets the stage for more of the filmmaker's worldview to shine through. I'm surprised not more have caught this. For a moment, the mother and daughter contemplate if they should tell the husband and father where they're going, as they might be away for a while. This is important, because although we've been led to believe our middle-aged heroine is a single mum, she's actually married, and this represents the only couple in the movie. We even see him trying to learn Spanish, as the wife is Hispanic. But the effect of his trying and failing is that he isn't understood, and he comes across as so awkward he might as well have been from another planet.
Now, the movie is a little tough on guys, but I would say never at their expense. It teases with love.
No, there's no love here, only contempt. The mother and daughter jointly decide, screw that guy. He doesn't need to know where they're going or when they might be coming back, and so they leave for Barbie World. When they arrive, they discover that Ken has turned the matriarchal paradise that was Barbie World into a patriarchal hellscape. Not only that, he wants to build a wall around it, and all the Barbies have been brainwashed. All except fourth-wave feminist weird Barbie, who knows what to do. She even says, either you're brainwashed or weird and ugly, there's no in-between. The only way to interpret such a crystal clear statement is that in Greta Gerwig's worldview, purple, red and blue-haired misandrists are the only ones that have the world correctly figured out. They are right, and everyone else is brainwashed by the patriarchy. But that's okay, our heroines manage to bring back all the Barbies with a combination of preaching gender studies and other assorted whining. Once all the Barbies are back, they carry out their master plan of segregating all the Kens by breaking their hearts and then manipulating them into fighting each other, thus interfering in a critical election so the Barbies alone get to vote and restore matriarchy and put the Kens back in their place.
The movie makes it clear that any extreme is not good. All women is not good, and all men is not good. And I'm glad that the movie made that point.
I don't know what movie Grace saw, but no such point was made in the movie I saw, quite the contrary. After Barbie removed any hope Ken might have had of them ending up together, removing him from even the friend zone, while apologizing and telling him that it was her, the rest of the Kens, who now have had a taste of independence, beg the Barbies for at least one Supreme Court judge. But the answer is no. They will remain subjugated, so take a lower court judge and shut up. Barbie then has a chat with her creator, Ruth Handler. But here, I feel it's pertinent to add that Ruth Handler didn't so much create Barbie, as she had Mattel license the pre-existing German doll Build Lily for the American market, which was redesigned into Barbie by Jack Ryan, and once Barbie was a hit. Mattel bought all the rights for the original Build Lily and shut her down. Either way, after talking with the ghost of the woman who, if nothing else, named her, Barbie decides to become human, and the movie ends with her going to the gynecologist to have her brand new vagina checked. Probably a remnant from when Amy Schumer was attached. But there's no prospect for a romantic partner in her life, and no prospects of any kind for any of the Kens.
Some people, sometimes feminism is more aggressive, and this movie could have taken that path, but it didn't. This movie very much wants everyone to be happy, which I think is very healthy.
The only way this movie could have been any more aggressive in its feminism than it was if the Barbies lined up all the Kens against the wall and had them shot. I mean, the Kens are pretty clearly a nuisance in Barbie world that are only tolerated for their servitude, but they wouldn't be missed if they all disappeared. The end message of the movie appears to be that men and women can only live their best lives far away from each other, and pregnant women are yucky and awkward. So, little girls watching, it would appear Greta Gerwig wants you to stay single, especially stay away from boys and men. Don't tell your father where you're going, and don't ever get pregnant with anyone. It's okay for you to have a mother, but you shouldn't become one. That, at least, is what I took away from the movie. Greta Gerwig's Barbie comes across to me as the perfect breakup movie. So, ladies, if you're in a relationship that isn't going anywhere, take him to this movie to set the mood and the stage, and then end it. And then maybe stick to cats forever afterwards. The interest behind this movie would approve. But maybe I missed out on something. Maybe there were some Kubrick-level layers I didn't see. If so, I don't think it matters, because a freaking Barbie movie shouldn't have such layers. A Barbie movie needs to work for children, for little girls, which even the most hardcore fans will admit that this movie doesn't.
Well, the movie is extremely sophisticated, and it's not made for little kids at all. However, that doesn't mean that they couldn't enjoy it. It's full of bright colors and big performances. But be prepared to discuss some of the subtext after the movie. I would say if you have a child under 10, every child is unique and different, and you as a parent know your child best, but I would say around 10 personally.
Again, this is a Barbie movie. When Stanley Kubrick put all those layers and messages into 2001: A Space Odyssey, he did it in his own original work for an adult audience, not in an adaptation of Roger Ramjet or the Jetsons or something else which clearly needed to be made for kids. This movie isn't. This propaganda is strictly for intersectional feminists only. The marketing, and it was extremely efficient, was deceptive and outright lied to the world about what this movie is. If this movie was ever intended to do anything other than sow discord and create division, then director Greta Gerwig messed up the execution pretty badly, and so did her husband and writing partner, male feminist Noah Baumbach. The ones who could have messed up the most, though, I think may have been Mattel for having signed off on this in the first place. Regardless of the movie's performance, I am curious about what impact this will have on Barbie toy sales over the next few years once the buzz from the movie is over. What do you think about that, and what did you think about the movie? Do you agree with my analysis, or did I miss out on something? If so, what? Let me know in the comments.